Well, hello everybody. My name is Rob McNeilly, and it's a pleasure to be able to contribute to this this online conference, building hope and empowering change. Of course, I mean this is a topic that's going to be important to all of us. And just to let everybody know that I've been asked to record this, and I've been asked to let everybody know that it is being recorded. So if you don't want to be seen, then it's just a matter of turning off your video. And if you don't mind being seen, then you can leave it on. Just your choice. So just a little bit about me, so that you can forget about who I am and we can get on with what's going to be important here. But I've got a medical background. I was in general medical practice in Melbourne, Australia for 10 years. I got interested in hypnosis, and I had the privilege and pleasure of spending some time with Milton Erickson towards the end of his life. I learned a lot from that man. And one of the questions that hovers around hypnosis is, people say, what is hypnosis? And if you ask experts about what hypnosis is, pretty soon you'll find yourself having a pretty strong, heated argument. Some people say everything is hypnosis. Other people say hypnosis doesn't exist as a thing in itself, it's nothing. So rather than get into a disagreement or a controversy about what hypnosis is and what it isn't, I prefer to use a description of hypnosis as being an experience where there's focus and absorption that we can mutually agree on as being hypnosis, so that we don't have to argue about what hypnosis really is. It's just a word that describes something. And when I first learned hypnosis, I learned that hypnosis is very dangerous, and you need to be extremely well trained in order, before you even start thinking of using it. But Erickson made a very helpful connection for us. He talked about what he called the common everyday trance, where someone can be reading a book, they can be watching a movie, they can be working in the garden, walking in nature. And when we're in some experience like that, we get focused and we get absorbed, and it's a natural human function. We can be reading a book and forget that it is a book. We can get into the content of the book as if we're actually somewhere else and not reading a book. And if we think of hypnosis then as an extension of the common everyday trance, it stops being such a weird and alien experience, and it becomes more familiar, more accessible, more useful for us as a therapist and for any client. A lot of people associate hypnosis with control, like with a stage hypnosis, where people do things that they don't really want to do. But it turns out that hypnosis cannot force anyone to do anything that they do not want to do. And Erickson's major contribution to the world of psychotherapy, therapy in general, was he claimed that everyone has more abilities than they realize. And that shifted the focus of therapy worldwide from an analysis of the past in relation to what caused what caused a particular problem and shifted the focus to what preferred future would you like to have. So it's not surprising that the solution-focused approach to therapy derived from Erickson. He was the one who initiated that shift of focus from the past and causes and the future and desired outcomes. And Steve DeShazer was originally a hypnotherapist, and he was a very witty fellow. He had a dry sense of humor. He said that he was always admiring of Milton Erickson, and he called Erickson the clever. And he tried to emulate what he saw Erickson doing and found that he was never going to be able to do that. So instead of trying to copy Erickson the clever, he decided he would be Steve the stupid. And the less he knew, the more questions he could ask and the more useful he could be. And of course, one of the cornerstones of the solution-focused approach is asking questions. But not just any questions, the questions that are formulated towards solutions, towards accessing resources, connecting with resources. And as an example of this, Erickson said to me one day, he had a phone call from a woman who said that she'd been washing her hands obsessively for 25 years. And he said he was very interested to find out from her what she used to do with her hands 26 years ago. In other words, he wasn't going to try and fix her. He was wanting to help her to reconnect with a way of washing her hands, a way of being that was familiar to her, but that she'd lost track of over the last 25 years. A lot of therapy, psychology and psychiatry in particular, follows the medical model. And I learned as a medical student and as a newly graduated doctor, that my job was to ask questions of someone to find out what was wrong with them. I needed to diagnose them, to classify them, so then I would know how to treat them. And the medical approach is very mechanistic. And it's great for helping with physical ailments. If you break your leg or break your arm, or if you have a pain in your stomach, we need to make a diagnosis so that we know what treatment to bring. But it turns out that therapy, counselling, coaching, is not so much concerned with fixing something in a defective person, something that needs to be replaced or updated or tinkered with, or somehow, like a car, if a car or a computer is misbehaving, you find out what's wrong so that you can fix it. But human experiences, human dilemmas are not like that. We are more organic. And so in the solution approach, as you're very familiar with, I'm sure, instead of asking what's wrong here that needs fixing, we can have a focus on what's missing here, that if we could help someone to connect with it, they'd be okay. In the miracle question, the solution focus so keen on, if a miracle happened while you were asleep tonight and the problem is gone and you wake up in the morning, what's going to be different? That question, the miracle question, is very much, it's not creating a miracle, it's creating a direction. It's helping to clarify for the client and for us what it is that they want, what it is that they would be helped by, that if they could get to it, they'd be okay. It's a very different, and I have to say that it's much more enjoyable and much healthier conversation to be in, helping someone to connect with some abilities they've got and they've got out of touch with, rather than having to work with defectives. So we can be very, we can contribute to a client's future, to their well-being, to their discovering their solution, by having this question, what's missing? What's missing that if you had it, you had access to it, you'd be okay? One of the important people in this field, Bill O'Hanlon, says that when he first meets a client, he likes to ask them, what's going to be different when you tell me you don't need to be here anymore? When you don't need my help anymore? When we've finished the therapy, what's going to be different for you? And when someone can identify what is present when they don't need to see Bill, when they've got a solution, if we find out what's present in the solution, that gives us a clue about what's missing in the problem. It gives a direction. One of my heroes, a therapist, Birgit Vala, runs an agency in Norway. And the agency is called The Helping Place. And when someone comes to the helping place, they are not given a diagnosis. They are not given medication. They don't have to wait for a long time for appointment. So they're usually seen on the spot. And they are asked one simple question. They are asked, what do you want? So what do you want is another variation of what's missing for you. Another way of asking what would you like to have happen here that would be helpful. Another way of asking if a miracle happened and the problem were not there, what would be different? All of those questions are variations on the idea that if we know what is missing for the client, if we know what's missing, then of course it's going to be much more likely that we'll be able to find it. My Irish ancestors say, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up in a different place. And if I go to the supermarket to get something and I don't know what I'm there for, I can be there for a long time. But if I know I'm going to get some bread, I'm going to get some milk, I'm going to get some butter, I can just go to the supermarket and I know where they are, I get them and I'm out of there. So knowing what we're looking for, what's going to be helpful for the client, is going to give us a marvelous direction to be effective in our attempt to help them. So that's great to know what we're looking for, what's missing for the client, what they want. But it just having that can leave us in a dilemma. Erickson told me that when a client comes to see you with a problem, they always bring their solution with them. Only they don't know that they bring their solution with them. So have a very nice time talking with your client, helping them to discover the solution that they brought that they didn't know that they brought. And when I heard that, I thought, oh, what a wonderful direction, what a wonderful mood, what a wonderful kind of conversation that invites. But then I found the dilemma. Okay, they bring their solution, help them to find it, but how do we help them? Where do we look? And it became very helpful and very clear to me that if we ask someone what they like to do, what they enjoy doing, is a characteristic of doing something that we like to do. It's a characteristic that we have all the resources right at our fingertips to deal with any minor interruptions or any interruption. Because if we didn't have those resources to fall back on, we wouldn't like doing that. My oldest son likes riding his bicycle. He rides, he goes on an early morning ride most days of his life. And he likes that, and he's been doing that for years. But if the chain comes off the sprocket, if he falls off, if it's cold, if he's hungry, if it's wet, if it's raining, he deals with that. He doesn't, if he gets a flat tire, he doesn't say, oh, I'm never going to ride my bike again. So when we do something that we like, we have all the resources that we need to deal with anything that happens. And so it turns out that if we know what we're looking for, what's missing for a client, and if we can explore the activity or the experience that they like, then we know what's missing for them, we know what we're looking for, and by exploring their likes, we can help them. We know where to look. So it's a pretty good combination. We know what we're looking for, and we know where to look, where we'll find it. Well, we've got a winning formula there. And I've been impressed over the number of decades discovering that when we ask someone about what they like, it's as if a person has a problem. If we focus on the problem, then a person has the problem. The problem is huge and overwhelming. When we start with the likes, there's more of the person there to deal with the problem, which is in a different context, is more manageable, more accessible to resolve. So what I'm inviting you to do here is I'm going to give you an opportunity to experience this for yourself, rather than demonstrate it with any particular individual. I'm just going to offer a general invitation to explore this for yourself. And it's an invitation. And if anyone is not interested in going along with this, then you don't have to go along with it. You can just listen to the ideas and make a judgment yourself. I think it'll be most relevant and useful if you can actually go along with the experience and have it as an experience happening in you. It'll make more sense to you. But that's just an invitation. And if you don't want to do that, then there's no need for you to do it. So we started with the idea that instead of defining hypnosis, if we can think of it as an experience where there's focus and absorption that we can mutually agree on as hypnosis, then we can invite someone to recall or to imagine that they're doing something that they like to do. And then that's as good as anything. If we can invite someone then to focus on some part of that, and then to allow themselves to become absorbed in that, then there are certain changes that can happen that we can encourage that are signs of hypnosis. Usually when someone gets focused and absorbed, an adult anyhow, if you're reading a book or watching a movie or doing something you enjoy, there's often a lot of focused awareness, so that when someone remembers doing something they like, there's usually some physiological changes. There's usually a change in their blinking, their face smooths out, the breathing usually slows down and becomes a little deeper, and there's often a lot of stillness in the body. So if we can invite someone to remember something that they like to do, invite focus, invite absorption, and then interest the person into noticing any of those physiological changes. Then we've got all the ingredients to what we can call hypnosis, if that's agreeable. Actually, whether we call it hypnosis or not is not the issue. It's the way that this attitude, this approach, can put someone in touch with and help them to connect with a missing resource. So I'm going to invite everyone to think of something they like, to get into the experience of that, to allow those changes to happen. And then having thought, first of all, of a problem that they want to resolve, and then explore what's missing so that we know what to look for, we can then invite, I can then invite you to explore what you like to do and to look specifically for what's missing in the problem and expect to find it in the solution. Expect to find it in the experience that someone likes to do. Then once we've identified what we're looking for, and once we've connected with finding that resource in the experience that is liked, that is enjoyable, then we can invite a connection to bring the resource in, which is present in the enjoyable activity, bring it to the problem where it's missing. It's like transplanting it or helping to graft it on to another place. And that way someone can have the experience of a direct experience of knowing and feeling and experiencing that solution that has come as a result of their connecting with that missing resource. So then after that, I'm just going to invite you to sit with that and get familiar with it, just get to notice it, and then to ask you to get your attention more externally and have the question for you that you don't need to articulate, to have to ask the question, what's different now than when we started? So that's an opportunity that I invite you all to join in. And if you're interested to go along with this, if not, then you can sit back and just pay attention and see if there's something that you could find useful for you in your practice. So let me begin by asking you to consider, what is it that you like to do? What activity is it that gives you pleasure, that you really enjoy? And just think for a moment and allow yourself, if there's more than one thing you like to do, then choose either of them. It doesn't matter. Just some activity that you enjoy, whether it's reading a book, whether it's walking in nature, whether it's riding your bicycle or swimming, whatever you enjoy. So if you could take a moment to clarify for yourself an activity that you enjoy doing, and then to just reflect for a moment, what is it about this activity that you enjoy? How come you enjoy it? Do you feel peaceful? Do you feel energetic? Do you feel calm? Do you feel whatever way you happen to feel is fine. But if you could just notice your reflection on what is it about this activity that you like. And then just sit with that for a moment. And then I'm going to invite you to think of a problem, something that's been bugging you, something that's been troubling you for a while. Doesn't matter what it is. Just think of something that you would like to have some resolution of, some comfort in, some relief from. And then as you sit with that problem, to notice how come it's a problem to you? In what way is that problem a problem to you? Does it bug you? Does it stop you doing something? Do you not like the way you feel? Whatever it is. And just sit with that for a moment. And then this marvelous question, if you're to reflect on, what's missing for you? That if you had access to it, what is missing? That if you could connect with it, that things would improve, that things wouldn't be so bad, or maybe the problem would be completely resolved. I don't know, and it really doesn't matter. But to get some clarification, some clarity, some focus on what it is that you want, what is it that's missing for you that would make a difference to you? And just sit with that for a moment. And then, if you would, could you recall a time recently or imagine that you are doing what you like to do, whatever that activity was that you identified that you like. And to take a moment to allow yourself to be in that experience. And then start to focus on some aspect of it. It might be a particular activity or a particular feeling or emotion or sensation in your body. Whatever it is that you find yourself focusing on, just allow yourself to do that and to be as focused as you happen to be. And that focus can vary. Sometimes you might be very focused, and then other times you might be quite vague and global. That's all right. Just let it happen any way that it does. And then, as a natural consequence of this focus, can you allow yourself to become more absorbed, so that it can be that as I'm talking, you can hear me and you can know that you're on a Zoom call. But as you become more absorbed in your experience, maybe my voice can be more in the background, or perhaps you don't need to listen to me at all. As you just allow yourself to be in that experience of doing whatever it happens to be that is pleasurable to you, that is enjoyable to you. And as you're doing this, you might be interested to notice that some physiological changes can happen. It may be that in order to really focus and be absorbed in what you like to do, that you've closed your eyes. Doesn't matter if you close them or they're open. But even if they're open, you might notice there's a certain alteration in the blinking. Probably more rapid, it might be slower, but it can be different. And you don't need to have made those changes happen intentionally. That's just a natural consequence of focus and absorption. And you probably don't need to notice that your breathing can have become a little deeper, a little slower. It's likely that there's a lot of stillness in your body. And there may be some change to your configuration of your face. sometimes, very often, in fact, the face smooths out as we become absorbed in your experience. It's just a natural consequence of that. And these changes can happen in your experience without you intending them to, without you having to make any effort. You don't even need to have noticed that they have happened, because they can happen naturally, effortlessly, and not even necessarily within your awareness. And now, if you would, could you notice that in this activity, in the experience of doing what you like to do, what you enjoy, to look around and notice that you can have that experience that is missing for you in the problem, whatever that happens to be. So just look around and notice how it is to feel that, to be that, to do that, in whatever way that occurs to you. So that as you are allowing yourself to connect with that experience, to notice that it is there, and to allow yourself to have that experience. It's just there, waiting patiently for you to notice it. And as you notice that, as you become aware of it, my invitation is to allow yourself to become even more familiar with it than you already are. Just sit with it, to sit in it, to marinate yourself in it, to soak it up, to notice just how good it feels to feel that way, and how familiar it is to you. But so often we don't notice when something pleasant like that is happening. We don't notice it, it's just in the background. So this is an opportunity for you to allow yourself to have that pleasure and to be aware of it, to really notice it, to learn it. And now I'm going to say some things that might sound a little weird, a little crazy, but I'm just going to say them anyhow. And what I want to say for you to make your own sense of this is that the problem that you had is the same as this leisure activity that you enjoy. It's the same. A woman told me that she liked cooking and that she had a problem with her daughter. And when I said to her, interacting with your daughter is like cooking, she was able to find that when she cooks, she doesn't need to have the right way of doing things. She's very creative. And she could add something or add something else if it didn't taste quite right. And it always turned out fine. And that way that she was in the kitchen cooking was what was missing for her in dealing with the daughter. And when she made that connection, the difficulty with the daughter just dissipated. Sometime later, she said she had a problem with her boss at work. And I said to her, dealing with your boss is like cooking. And so she was able to be creative, be flexible, to know that she could do things about her relationship with the boss. And the whole thing fizzled. She had no problem. So that's why I can say that the problem that you identified is the same as the pleasing activity. But if that doesn't make sense, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't, I can ask you, what is it about your experience of doing what you like that could be helpful for you to deal with the situation that was problematic? What is it that you're doing when you're doing something that you enjoy, that you're not doing? Has this be a problem? And as well as that, even though I don't know what it is that you like doing, I don't know how it was for you to learn how to do that. But it's very likely that when you first started to do that activity that you now enjoy, that it was difficult, maybe even seemed impossible, was tricky and complicated, and you may even thought, I'll never learn this. But you did learn. Learning happened. And instead of it being difficult or even impossible, it became something that was rather easy. And now it's not only easy, but you enjoy it. And in the same way that you learned to enjoy that activity that you do enjoy, in the same way that you learned that, so you can learn how to bring that solution, that resource, to the area that was problematic. So that learning is a process that can take time. It can happen instantly. It can happen intermittently at first. It can happen slowly. You might need to be reminded of it. However it was that you learnt that activity that's now enjoyable, so you can learn this solution, this connection, this ability, and let that learning happen in any way that is going to be useful for you. And also it's important to realize that you don't need to make this connection here. You don't need to make it now. It may be that while you're having breakfast tomorrow, or while you're walking the dog on the weekend, or while you're asleep dreaming, that you can make that connection. It can just happen. It can happen when it's ready. It can happen how it's ready. And it doesn't have to be immediate. It doesn't have to be here. You can let that connection happen in any way that it can be useful for you. So my invitation now is to just sit with that possibility that the problem is the same as what you like, with the question of what is it in the way that you are when you're doing something that you like, that if you did that in the problem, it wouldn't be a problem. To sit with the experience that when you first learned that activity that you now enjoy, it may have been difficult or impossible, but now you enjoy it. In the same way that you can now allow that learning process to inform your experience so that you can learn how to have that solution instead of the problem. And to sit with the idea that it doesn't have to happen immediately, doesn't have to happen in a way that you think it should or that I think it should, but it can happen in the way that it can and the way that it will. So can you sit with that for a moment and just let that kind of settle into your experience in any way that can be helpful to you and useful to you. And then when you're ready, when you have sat with that to your satisfaction, can you get off your bicycle, get out of the swimming pool, come back from nature, whatever it is that you've been doing, putting that book down, stopping watching that film, whatever it is that you're enjoying, and come back to our present time and a more external awareness. Take your time to do that. No rush. No hurry here. It's important to take your own time. Do not rush yourself, but just allow that to happen in its own way, its own time. And you might want to take a deep breath or shift your body around a bit to get yourself back to the present moment. And then I have a question. What's different for you now than when we started this experience? What can you notice that you were unaware of before? How are you looking at this situation differently? And again, to have that question and to be curious about how this might happen, how it can unfold. So I'm wondering if anyone has any comment, if it has anything that they could speak about. It's not a requirement. You don't need to do anything, but I'm curious, and perhaps others will be curious, to hear what's different now than when we started. Anyone have anything that they can speak about?
I've got something, Rob.
Thanks, David.
I've got a problem at work, and the thing that you made me really aware of was that when I drive to work, I get pains in my chest.
Okay.
Now, I was always aware of that, but it's, you know, the fact that I'm driving to work and I'm going to be faced with this problem. Yet my happy place, I don't get pains in my chest. I get a completely different sensation when I'm in my happy place, which is sailing on a boat.
Uh-huh.
It's a complete sense of well-being that I get.
All right.
And when you said I'm going to graft this onto that,
yes,
I didn't really understand how this would work until I did it.
yeah,
And now I've got a sense of knowing next time I'm driving to work, I know what I have to do, or I know maybe a possibility to not experience that chest pain anymore.
yeah.
And I'm already starting to wonder, how will that make a difference for me when I actually get to work?
Okay.
And I haven't had that pain in my chest anymore.
Yeah. And it might sound absolutely crazy, David, for me to say, instead of driving to work, why don't you sail to work? You could go to work on your boat.
Well, that's interesting, because I can take two directions to work. I could turn right or I could turn left.
Okay.
It takes me the same time. But if I normally turn right, but if I turn left, I actually get a view of the ocean.
Uh-huh.
And I don't normally go that way when I go to work, even though it's the same distance.
Well, instead of choosing between left and right, you could choose between not fore and aft. What's left and right when you say
port and starboard?
Yeah, port and starboard.
Yeah.
No, you could go port and starboard.
Yeah.
But when I invite you to sail to work, I mean, that's an absurd thing. You're not going to put your boat on the road and sail along the road. but to see that connection of sailing to work or of turning to the left and seeing the ocean, you have a different experience. And I love the way that you're saying you can see there's a possibility. There's no guarantee about this. But there's an option there that you now see that you didn't see before. And I think that's marvelous. And I want to emphasize that I didn't know anything about that. I don't need to know. You know. You knew you did that. It was your experience, not a function of me. Thank you so much, David, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a pleasure. Mutual pleasure. Any other comments from anyone else?
And you definitely invited me to approach what I was conflicted about in a way that was really about gentle curiosity, with some compassion and definitely the awareness of, the radical acceptance, because at the end of the day, yay, human, things can go, there'll be the ebbs and flow, but at the same time, keeping that in mind, to David's point, creating that space for possibility and some compassion or even some humor is what really opened me up to more resources.
And I want to emphasize, Alifa, is that how I say your name?
Alifa. Alifa.
Alifa.
Yeah.
There's nothing new for you in what you're saying. In the same way that for David, sailing isn't new for him. But the possibility of sailing to work, possibility of turning left instead of right, possibility for you to have that compassion and that space. It existed before, but now it's become a reality. It's become a real option, a real possibility. That's lovely. And it's nothing huge. It's nothing complicated. It's nothing, oh, I don't know how I'm going to do that. It's kind of natural and obvious to you. And isn't that the way with most problems? When we get to a solution, it's like, oh, how obvious. It's only obvious afterwards. But it's now obvious. That's lovely. Thank you, Alifa.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Someone else wanted to say something.
I have a question.
Oh, yes, Gillian.
Hello.
Hello.
What if the problem doesn't have a solution? What if it's where somebody has lost something, like a job that they've lost under very difficult circumstances, or a close person or a child, and the problem is that enormous pain, but solving the problem, as far as the person can see, is to have back what they had.
Well, if they had back what they had, that's what's missing. So we can ask someone, first of all, I'm just offering this approach as a possibility, Gillian. I'm not saying if you do this, you can cure everyone.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. But just talking off the top of my head here, because I don't know the specifics that you're talking about, but in general, when someone says what's missing is getting things back the way they were, if we then offer the possibility of them imagining that things could get back the way they were and ask them what's different if that were to happen, then if they were to have that job back,
Mhm.
what would be different for them? What would they be feeling? And they'd be feeling what? Contented or peaceful or grateful or I don't know what. So then that's what we miss. That's what we're looking for. And when we ask someone what they like to do, there have been, when we do something that we like, there's been a lot of loss along the way of getting to enjoy what we like. So however someone coped with the loss that they had in learning to ride a bicycle or sail a boat or whatever it is they like doing, we've all had losses and we've all coped with losses. And this gets to be a problem when it feels like it's the first time. There's no other similar experience. It's a one-off. And when we make a connection, oh, you've lost other things, but you in learning to enjoy what you're doing, you learned how to cope with that loss. You learned how to let go and move on or whatever. So I can only talk in general, Gillian, but usually we find that when a problem is, when we're stuck in a problem, there are no alternatives. There's nothing to fall back on. When we look at what someone likes to do, there are always a lot of options there. So all I can say is that by exploring what someone likes to do, it provides a different context, a different group of possibilities that is not there if we're just focusing on the problem.
Thank you.
And I can only ask you to invite you to play with this. I'm not guaranteeing that it's going to fix everyone. Of course, it's not. But very often, pretty predictably, it's going to be useful.
Great.
So, thanks for the question. Important one.
Yep.
Another potential difficulty is if we ask someone what they like to do, and they like some aspect of the problem. If someone has a heroin addiction, and we say, "What do you like to do?" and they say, "Oh, I like to get high on heroin." And then we think, "Oh my goodness, I wish I hadn't asked that. What am I going to do now?" But if someone likes getting high on heroin, if we find out what it is about that they like, we'll find that they get some relief from their emotional pain, they get some time out, they get some peace, they get some time for themselves. So that's what's missing. And then if we can find other things that can allow someone to get some help with their pain, or with their being overwhelmed or need to escape, how else can they escape? Then the heroin can be one way of getting the result of what's missing, but it's only one way. It's not the way. So there's some more possibilities of looking for what's missing then when we find out what they're getting, what they like about the problem, even if it's problematic. Are there any other comments that people have about what was different for you at the end of that exercise compared with the beginning? It doesn't have to be, but I'm just curious. A couple of people have been generous in their comments about what they found useful. So it's getting time for us to, our time is nearly up. And just to recap what this process is that I'm inviting you to play with, is to ask someone, not when they first come in, tell me about the problem, but to ask someone, what do you like to do? And then find out what they like about that. Helps to clarify and personalize it. If we then ask, what problem would you like to do something about? and what aspect of that problem is particularly troublesome to you. That helps to particularize, helps to individualize the process instead of treating loss or grief or some kind of general diagnostic category like that. And then to find out what's missing. Such a beautiful question. Because if it's missing, then we just need to look for it. Once we find it, we've got it. And then there are those ways of connecting. So one of my friends, Scott Miller, spoke about a situation where a woman sought help because she was grieving about her young daughter who died. From memory, the daughter was about 8 or 9, something like that. Now, I mean, that's a terrible thing for anyone to have to cope with. But this woman was really upset and saw several therapists who well-intendedly made a diagnosis of grief. She was stuck in grief, and it was trying to treat her with the grief, with the grieving and the trauma of losing a daughter. She would articulate what was missing for her was knowing that the daughter was okay. And the therapists didn't hear that because she's dead. You know, how can you know? But she was determined what was missing for her was knowing the daughter was okay. So she ended up going to see a clairvoyant. And the clairvoyant listened to her about what she wanted. She wanted to know whether her daughter was all right. And so this clairvoyant channeled the daughter, the dead daughter. And the mother said, "How are you, all right?" And she said, "I'm just fine. There's an old man here." "Oh, it's probably my grandfather. There's an old man here, he's looking after me, and you know, everything's fine, don't worry." She felt comforted by that. She went back several times, and each time the clairvoyant would channel the daughter. And after about the 3rd or 4th time, the clairvoyant channeling the daughter said, "Look, I'm all right. I'm having a fun. You just get on with your life. I don't want to hear from you again." And so that clairvoyant listened to what was missing for that woman and helped her to find it, knowing that her daughter was okay. So if we don't find out what's missing for this person, then we're going to be treating a condition, which is so impersonal and so unhelpful. But when we find out what's missing for this person, there's a chance, there's a possibility, a much greater chance of finding what's missing if we know what it is that's missing. So my invitation is for you to play with this or some aspect of this, just an invitation. And if it doesn't help, well, you've wasted a bit of time, but that's all right. Very often people are surprised at just how much relief they get when we are with them and listen to them for what's missing for them and help them to find it. So let's leave it at that. And I thank you for being willing to be part of this process. And I'm grateful to the organisers of this Building Hope, Empowering Change. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share with you some of what I've learned along the way. So thanks for being willing to be part of that and have some fun with exploring it.
Thank you. It's very interesting.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rob. That's really fantastic. And I missed your session last year because I was doing a lot of organizing. And I really wanted to be here to see what I missed out on. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's a pleasure. That's a pleasure, David. Thank you.